When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ledlow, and enjoy today's episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast. Yes, I am on the road, and I'm here in Southern California, and working on my Irish tan. As you can see, my red nose reindeer nose is going on here. But just getting back in the groove. And we got my friend Brittany over. I think she's in Florida. She's probably traveling somewhere around the globe, as she always does. Brittany, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mark. Happy to be here. Yeah, no, in Florida today, it's beautiful. It's sunny. It's 486 million degrees, but we are here and we are live and we're going. So happy Monday.
Happy Monday to all those listeners out there. Exactly. I'm syncing my phone so they don't disturb us while we have this VIP podcast with the VIP herself. So, Brittany, people have seen you out there in LinkedIn world, and they're probably going, the gala, the women in security thing. Who is Brittany? And the world, the podcast world, the industry probably wants to know. The next generation probably knows you, but the OGs probably are like, who is this Brittany person? So I need to showcase who Brittany is.
Well, thank you, Mark. So, again, my entrance into the security industry came at a drop of entrepreneurship about 10 years ago now. And I got heavily involved with ASI's Women in Security because it was just kind of an up and coming group at the time. I want to say it was less than 50 or 100 girls or women, I should say. And there was opportunity for, I'll say, extreme networking in a community and I'll say industry that I had no connections in, right? And so throughout the years of not only just making colleagues and friends, but also working in the women's security space, it kind of gave you and many of us passion for one of the gaps in the industry, which was that there just isn't enough female creative mind thinking in some of these rooms. And all we really want to do is just create a room where it's 50% men and 50% women. Yeah. And that's kind of the goal of our passion, is to just get to that level. And while we know that security space is, very militaristic and it's got a lot of military background, the goal is just to create, again, more executive leaders that think from a diverse mindset, more creative thinking, and also build spaces in this industry for women to work. I recently was just at the Panama Women in Security Conference, amazing conference that LATAM always does for them. And one of the things that I talked about, which I think, like I said, is a huge gaping opportunity for this entire industry, is how CSOs are leveraging AI and in what type of capacity. And if I was a woman, and somebody asked me this the other day, and I answered it, was, if I was coming into the industry as a female, what route would I go down? And hands down, I would learn AI for security and how to leverage it. Be the knowledge expert of the top 10 tools that are out there in all the different levels, figure out how they're buying it, why they're buying it, how much they're spending, what budget percentages are going to be attributed to this in the next 5 to 10 years. And that would be where I would head. Cybersecurity used to be my answer for that question. But now I think, like I said, that the real experts out there are going to be the ones that we can use AI as our third arm. And how do we leverage it in security? And there is just a hole in the market for those opportunities. And so that's why I'm kind of spreading that word now. But I'm going to actually do an ebook on it as well here quite soon. So yeah, that's what I'm up to, Mark. What are you up to?
I haven't been home in my own bed in like a month. And, I was just in Texas, and we're just expanding the licensing brand and trying to find a podcast media group actually in Texas. So working on the media portion of the brand and getting launched in Texas. I got a bunch of entrepreneurs lined up in Texas now that want to come on the show, and it's something different. It's a new. Like I was telling Tim Wenzel in the studio we did in Irvine, I did not know I could do this stuff. I had no clue. It took the COVID pushed me to do this.
And it takes always something, right, to rip that Band-Aid off, and then we try something and we keep throwing things at the wall, and then something sticks, and it was like, oh, why didn't I do this 5 years ago, right? But no, I'm happy for you because this is amazing.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a fun journey. It's all the cool people I get to meet. The relationship. What I love about security is the relationships with the people in the industry. That's what I love most about it. I got the T-shirt, working the detail, being a bodyguard. I did that a long time ago. Let the young folks.
Well, and I was having this conversation with somebody the other day too. Was that the security industry is kind of an interesting space because it's not like other industries where you come into the industry, there's set levels, bands, career paths, and everything else. Here, you can we all drop in some way, shape, or form, sometimes randomly, right? And then, where we kind of needle around until we find ourselves is where we find ourselves. And then at the end of the day, the most interesting part is that security people are naturally courageous and brave humans because of the nature of the job. Wow. And generally operate from their gut feeling and instincts. And I always thought that this was one of the best industries to be in for, like you said, actually creating like an amazing group of networking humans, right? Of family like people, is because we all have generally good gut instincts that we have to operate, save, protect, and ensure security for people, places, and assets. But at the same time, not everybody's industry is like that. Like they're not all saviors. They're not all courageous. They're not all brave, right? And I always thought that those were like really like beautiful traits to have, as a network in what we do every day. So,
wow, you said something profound today I've never heard before in 4 years of podcasting. I never heard someone explain it like you did. That was brilliant.
Thank you.
You're courageous to be in this industry. You're going to be bold to be in this industry. It takes a certain gut, like you said, a certain radar, a certain fearless mindset to exist in this industry. Exactly. Especially if you're a woman.
I mean, think how strong the women are that are in this industry, right? They can surpass most people. They can surpass most people in any other industry that exists, right? And I always think that that's like a very under mentioned thing is like, we are the people that protect. When the world goes to hell, we create calm and chaos, and it's our job, right? And I think that those are just underrated, natural, valuable characteristics that we, as, like I said, the security industry should talk more about and highlight and be proud of, and bring young people into this industry and give them that, right? Give them those things, those characteristics, and say, you're going to grow as not only just a professional, but as a human because of just who you're being surrounded with. And I think we should do more of that. You're giving me ideas, Mark. I like this.
Brittany, you brought up something that I've been hearing a lot from other peers, but they're afraid to say it on a forum, but you just said it. I'm hearing, in addition to what you just said, the younger generation, they don't feel value in going to these conferences. They just they'll hear the same folks speak on the same panels. Right. No disrespect to the conference people. They're friends of mine that host these conferences. But your young generation don't see the value in those conferences. I'm not going to say anyone in particular out of respect to my friends that run those different organizations. What are you hearing from the younger generation? What do they want?
Well, I'm hearing two things. One is that you're right. Like that's kind of the mumbling that's happening in the background. The other thing is you have to realize that a lot of people in the sub 30 age or sub even 35 age don't have budget to go to the conferences. So of course they don't find value in it, right? They can't even show up because they haven't had the budget to get there. Which is why I think a lot of our associations and our conferences are very old in age, is honestly because we just haven't done a really good job of getting the young ones there, right? For them to experience the good things that do come out of conferences, like networking and so on and so forth. But I've heard the same thing. But you also see all these young people now creating these small little virtual forums, right? Which I applaud. And they're connecting their own dots digitally and globally faster than, most people used to 10 years ago for obvious reasons. And, the digital footprint is everywhere. So I think it's about us catching up with them, actually.
Interesting.
And figuring out ways to just deepen the relationships virtually, globally. And I've spoken to that quite a bit, especially at when we were at the conference in Europe. But it's the global and local network that you build is the most valuable thing in this profession, because as you know, when shit hits the fan, we literally open our Rolodex and say, "I'm calling this guy or this girl," right? And I think that we need to just do a better job of how do we globally connect the security industry across the board, not just for professional reasons, but also for networking and keeping the young ones in the industry, right? Rather than leaving. I'm seeing a lot of young people come in, get frustrated and go. I'm seeing a lot of women in security come in, get frustrated and leave, right? And we're losing a lot of talent that I'm more worried about.
Wow, the turnover is really high. They just don't feel valued in the industry that they're working in. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
What are you hearing from the ladies that are in the younger generation? What are they wanting to see? What are they wanting to hear? What are they wanting to be involved with to add value?
Yeah. So I will have to say, one of my things that I'm going to go and try and say for the next, let's say, year or two is, a lot of these CISO executive level teams say they want to invest in women in security. They want to support women in security. They want to do all this stuff. But I hate to say this, it literally comes down to sponsoring getting the female in the room. And unless they're putting the money where the mouth is to get the female in the room, to see, network, be around like peers, so on and so forth, go to conferences. Until that happens, it's the same cyclical, slow moving cycle that we've been in. We need a mass effort of getting the female in the room and across the board. And that comes from top down, right? It comes from top down decision making, top down budgets, top down everything. We just have to put the money where the mouth is. It's that time, because we've created the buzz, we've created the momentum, we've started the fire, we've thrown gasoline on it. Right now, it's time to actually support it.
And I really admire what you do with the gala coming up on September the 21st, and GSX as is great opportunity. Great. Is this your idea? Was this your original idea?
So I don't know if you know the story behind the gala, but it's amazing, right? So last year, GSX was in Texas, as we all know, in Dallas, and it was incredible because the women around from all over Texas and all the chapters came together and put this beautiful, elegant, formal gala together. And after that, it was a raging success, sold out, right? Thousands and thousands of dollars worth of prizes, raffle given away, tens of thousands of dollars given to the local charity in Dallas, as well as the women in security community for events and networking and so on, and scholarships. And basically everybody came after it and said, well, we don't want this to die. This is such a raging success. Let's do it again. Right. So now again in Florida, right, everybody's coming together and kind of doing the same thing. And, but now it's a lot more global global footprint that's involved in it. And we've created kind of this, I'll say, Women in Security Gala that, has now been called, Security Prom, which is awesome. But it's the one time to come and use the dress that you have hanging in the closet still with the tags on. And we've kind of expanded the fun of it too. And just locally, just recently, as you know, we're doing a bow tie contest. So bow tie contest is happening. Nice. And the other thing that we're going to do is we have opened it up to those in the military who would like to wear their dress blues or their military uniforms. Feel free to wear those. We all know we'd love to see men and women in their military uniforms. We want to support them. This is their exact moment, right, for us to recognize that. It's
all over again.
Exactly. Marine Corps ball. And that's amazing. So I think that, no, it was one of those things. It was just so wonderful to do it last year. And we just want to keep it going. We just want to keep the momentum going and let everybody dance and have fun. And that's really what it's about. And we're giving, of course, all the proceeds go back to a local charity in Orlando and to Women in Security networking events and scholarships. Awesome. Yep.
What's the head count so far for this?
We're at, we've sold about 150 tickets or so thus far. And we're looking to, we probably have about 120 seats left. And we know that, we know that there's of course, a bunch of people that sign up like right before and come like the day of. And so we're holding that kind of spot, but there's room now, but I would tell you, it will sell out. It always does. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. We're, thanks to Brittany, we are invited to be a sponsor. We got a table, Ledlow Security Groups and the Fearless Mindset. So we'll be there with our team to support the ladies in security at the gala. So the shout out.
Yes, you will, Mark.
And looking forward to
Thank
that.
you for being the supporting gentleman that you are. And also we're going to have some t-shirts giveaways as well. Mark, your logo will be there. People will be wearing you around all of GSX from the Women in Security t-shirts we're giving out. So It'll be good. I know.
Well, a little background story to everybody listening to that. I have 4 younger sisters.
Wow. Good for you. So you still survived. Look at you.
I survived. It was a fight in the bathroom on the weekends just to get in the bathroom. We lived in the woods, so it wasn't too bad of an issue.
Yeah, right. But, you knew your place, though, was outside.
I knew it was outside. Yeah. Find a tree out there. Do your thing. But, 4 younger sisters, mom was a homemaker. Dad, was an entrepreneur as well. And so, I grew up with 4 younger sisters. So I have always had a place in my heart for mentoring, coaching. That's why I always got along with the ladies. I got 4 sisters. So that makes sense to those folks out there. That's kind of why.
And you survived.
I've always been the protector.
That's all that matters.
Call the boyfriend that they're breaking up, say, hey, if you touch my sister again, we'll have a different conversation. So back up, bud. had a couple of those phone calls when I was in my 20s when I was in the Marines. So I love it. Let's just say, I got a problem with this guy. He's kind of weird. What's his number?
Right.
Call him up.
Well, like I said, you're a natural protector, and it shows.
Yeah, thanks. Yep, I guess it's in your DNA or whatever. Military.
And everybody says like they come into this industry like randomly and everything else, but if you look at the people that are actually here and like I said, the gut instinct, the gut characteristics that they have, we're all very alike in a lot of ways, right? And I treasure that. I would just treasure that. Every time I go to one of these events, I just treasure the people I'm in the room with. And I always say, I even have said this to my mom, going to a security conference is literally the safest place on the earth. It is. Absolutely. It is. If you are a female, it is, you are in a room of protection, and you couldn't make a better room of protection. And I always say that, like, it is the safest place on earth. We are lucky to be there. So.
Well, I got to know, Brittany, what is your background? You have this mystique about you. Like you used to be a special agent in the CIA or FBI or something. No. You have this mystiqueness about you.
If only. No, actually, so I come from Northern California, born and raised, and moved out to the East Coast about, let's say, 10 years ago now. And then was asked by a few to help run operations in a security tech startup company. And so I got out of the finance world and I got into security tech world and software. This was before when we were trying to teach guards how to use cell phones, like it was then. Oh. And that was the biggest hurdle, was to get a security guard to use a mobile app. Was actually one of the largest hurdles in the world. Big deal, right? Now it's very used and everything else, but that was a huge deal back then. And then we grew that company and it sold about 2 years ago now. And since then I've just been doing some consulting and obviously the passion is women in security. So I've been focusing on that quite a bit. and just honestly trying to fill gaps in this industry and connect it better for young people and for the minorities. Just to honestly grow it, make it more beautiful, and make this place a place where, again, people want to be, they want to stay, they want to grow professionally and obviously personally too. So that's kind of my story. Yep, Florida. It is a sunny, beautiful place for about that you want to be about 6 months out of the year because it's not a 487 million degrees. And then there's those days that there's 487 million degrees. So that's about it. But no, that's
now when
really
you say
all.
Consulting, what does that look like for those listening to you? Going to check you out on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
What type of consulting do you do?
Yeah, so good question. So I usually do C-suite. So if you think about a CISO, CSO, COO level, CIOs, they are always in need of, I'll say, security education, security mindset, security strategy, a literal right hand most of the time, right? And what I'm trying to do is just kind of further the footprint of, how, again, women can sit in a room with this type of, executive and make impact right across the board, while also kind of pulling up some of these other females as we go. So that's kind of the thing is like, it's always kind of been my consulting path in the background for the last 10 years. And it's a real sweet spot because you get to see cross department, but also cross industry. And, how tech is involved in security and software and those things. So it's kind of a beautiful place to be. And I was having this conversation, I think, with somebody at the last conference, was that it's also because of AI an amazing time to be in technology and cybersecurity, right? And this cybersecurity space, I think, is amazing in that whole world because I'm always pushing people to education for cyber, but it's a place to, I'll say, learn a way to secure things, people, places, and assets digitally, right? Via software, via all these things, but it's a brand new thing. Like it wasn't here again 30 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. We didn't know it existed. And it wasn't a part of security that we even thought about. Now it's a driving force. It's a driving career path. And so I'm learning a lot about that. I'm learning a lot about what that C-suite needs for that. And that's kind of, like I said, where I'm sticking my head now to learn of just more about it. There's a lot of companies that, are just out there spreading the news, spreading the word of how cyber is, transforming their entire technology or their companies. OffSec being one of them is the one I've been looking at recently and working with. And it's a great place for, again, those in the career of security who maybe don't like exactly what they're doing today to head, because it's not going to die. If it's only going to get bigger, the budgets are only going to get bigger. They're not going to get smaller. Right. And that's that's really it. So no, that's kind of the things I'll say I'm most interested in lately. Good question.
I know there's a different language you have to talk at the C-suite level because you're dealing with CFO, you're dealing with the chief operating officer, you're dealing with the chief executive officer, and then you have lawyers you have to deal with, and attorneys and general counsel you have to deal with. Yeah. That's a whole different world compared to being just an executive protection agent or an analyst. You'll be able to talk their language to sell a point. Right.
Well, and it's all about consulting background, I think, too, right? Once you get that your feet wet in that world, it becomes, you practice for years and years and you get smacked around and you get, taught, I'll say, how to work it all. It becomes actually pretty simple. One of my mentors, she told me, this was when I first started consulting, is she said, you only sell things in two ways: with risk or budget or cost. Mm. And it sounds so simple, but it's about selling your ideas with the risk of not doing it or the cost of not doing it. Right. And I think that once that clicked, everything in those tables, right, the boardroom and all that became fairly simple, because then it's just about building a case for the most strategic, best outcome for the organization, company, initiative, whatever it is, that either alleviates one of those two things. And which we should do, and this is actually a good idea, Mark, we should do something about, how to sell your ideas, because, the storytelling piece is just a piece of it, creating the story, but you still have to sell it, and they still have to say yes, right? And you still have to get budget, capital improvement projects or whatever it is. And I think that that's kind of the secret sauce is, have you perfected or refined your ability to make a proper ask in the right way that gets an executive on board?
Because their minds, because you're dealing with the CFO, and then you deal with the attorney who his job is to mitigate risk. His job is to create a solution to that CEO and to the C-suite. And that attorney is either going to be on your back end, have your back, or he or she is not. And then I know these people try to land these contracts, but it's more than landing a contract. It's understanding the language. It's understanding the numbers. It's understanding the data. It's risk assessment, threat assessment. There's so much more to just landing a contract with family office. You got to have a relationship, and that takes trust. Getting in those circles, you're just not going to pop in there because of your XYZ company or whatever. It takes years and years of building trust. And that's what I found out about this. As you go to these conferences, it takes time for people to warm up to you because everybody's naturally skeptical. We're protectors.
100%.
So we're naturally skeptical. What are you trying to sell? Who are you? What is your background? Who knows you? That takes 6 months to a year for people to vet you before they even let you in the door.
You got it. And that's actually, it's building the trust is the single most important thing you have to do first. Your ideas are useless until you've built trust. And that trust is what you use to sell the ideas. But at the same time, until you have built the trust, it's not going to work. Right. And that comes from, at least in my head, it comes from hard work. Right. And, just honestly, the grit and the discipline to get things that you are accountable for across the finish line and in a level of excellence. That's really it. Right. And it's just that, that's where you realize the rock stars versus everybody else, and they kind of just weed themselves out naturally in any industry.
You nailed it though with AI. The future of security is going to be AI. It's going to be a new economy we haven't even seen yet. We're starting to see the infancy stages of it. But I don't think we've seen the true magnitude of how AI is going to affect our worlds tomorrow. We haven't even seen it yet.
No. And I just did a recent thing. Actually, I'll give it to you. Maybe you can stick it in your post when you post this. But I just did a thing at a conference review of where CSOs are actually spending money on AI, and 30% of the budget they're spending it on threat. So the threat protection, right? I have these bands, but and very, very little of it is actually spent, believe it or not, on AI training and education. And that again is interesting because again, it's creating its own economy inside of each individual industry. And it's just like the internet, right? Boom. When we had the internet come out, this is going to affect the whole world globally. It's going to affect it's going to affect every industry, every department, every manager, every leader, everybody, right? And that's where I said is the gaping hole in opportunity is the education part of it. And being able to, like I said, learn and be able to use AI as a third limb, not as a threat, right? Not as something that's going to replace somebody, but being that knowledge expert with this great tool that we now have the ability to use.
Sounds so technical, but it's very simple. It's AI.
It's like a hammer. Think of it like a hammer. Right. Security world, I guess you can think of it like a gun or a bullet, right? It's going to happen. It's going to be there. It's going to, no matter what. But it's pretty interesting. And what I can't wait for is when kind of these AI, I'll say, technology companies start doing the, connectors, and we start actually connecting the dots across the industry with the software. You're already seeing it in some of the companies, but I just can hardly wait. Security is going to get so much easier.